Welcome to the Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's podcast, we have Ryan Holck. Ryan is a marketing strategist and a master story distiller. So, what this exactly means, he will tell us definitely in the podcast or in the next few minutes that we're gonna speak together, or maybe even a couple of more minutes. Ryan, please tell us more about you. Tell us about your background and tell us about everything around what you're doing. And I know there is a very strong brand story inside, but you can tell us best about what you're doing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate, first of all, the chance to be here. So, Omar, it's been an interesting journey. I started as a creative on the musical side, and really tried to figure out early in my life, do I want to be like on the music side? Do I want to be on the arts and marketing and like design side of things? And I spent some time as a musician and really realized in the first few years that this was great, but I think I feel like it's a better fit for me to do marketing and the creative side of things. And what I've really discovered in the last 20 years of doing this is that each of our businesses has a story to tell, has a brand message that we want to get out into the world. But it's so easy as business owners to get in our own way because we are so close to the things we're trying to talk about that we often don't give people the context and the understanding to quickly know who we are, what we do, how our products and services can make the world better. And so when I talk about being a story distiller, really what that comes down to is I've got a process where I help businesses to figure out how do we take all the complex things that fill your day, all the things that you want to share with a potential customer or an existing client, and how do we share those in a way that makes sense for the listener so that they can easily comprehend what are we doing, how can we help them. And so it's really taking some marketing principles and going a step really before marketing starts and saying, how can we strategically make sure what is being shared is super clear, is super focused, so that we're walking people through a customer experience with us and a journey that doesn't feel like we're selling the entire process and frustrating people as they go. So
Okay.
really that's kind of the heart of what it is. So I start with strategic stuff, and then we talk about, that's great. So we figured out what you want your story to be as a business. We figured out some ways to maybe simplify and distill it down. Now let's talk about ways to strategically put it out into the world using, proven marketing techniques and using your goals as the things that drive really the means that we're going to get your message out.
Okay. So let's talk about this, the very strategic stuff, like more in the middle, because I think this is something we definitely need more. And as well, the listeners, they want to hear more about that. But I think I want to know more about yourself, because you mentioned you're a creative person,
Yeah.
from what I understand. So creativity obviously comes with marketing, comes hand in hand at some point. So you kind of slid into this, or did you realize, when did you realize, listen, you look at the people and you say, oh, look, we could build something with that story. Maybe that would be better if, to tell that story instead of how he presents himself. How did you come along with that?
So some of that kind of happened organically. I from a young age loved to draw and doodle and fold paper and do weird things and always had this like creative underpinning. It was always more of a question for me of how's that going to come out? What's that going to look like in business and in life? And could I make a living doing it? Do I need to go be an engineer or something, like that? So for me, what it came about in a lot of ways was having conversations with people. I've done a lot of work in the nonprofit space where, especially in the early years of my business, where at the end of the day, the impact that was made on people's lives was a lot of times what drove people's interest in helping support an organization. And I learned in the process of helping nonprofits that the stories of how we made people's life better with the products and services we offered went a lot further than marketing techniques and ideas ever did. And what I recognized was that 90% of what I did on a daily basis worked for small businesses and solopreneurs really well, because when they could stop talking about the tasks they do and start talking about the ways that they could improve someone's life and help them move forward, solve issues in their businesses, and they could tell a story in the process that connected with people emotionally, it dramatically changes the sales process, because it goes from being, I'm pitching a product, to this is conversational and it's relational. And I really think this could help you, you or your business.
Okay, okay, that sounds really good. And is there anything in your business or in the early business stages, anything that you didn't expect, some success, some things where you say, "Whoa, I didn't, I do this naturally, and suddenly this came like this," because out of passion or out of just because you mentioned you did a nonprofit, so there is a lot of passion as well in there, as far as I understand.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that has come naturally and been a surprise, because I have assumed because it came naturally for me that it did for others, was the ability to kind of look at a business and quickly identify, as an outsider, these are the things that interest me the most, and maybe on roads to connect new people to this organization. And I just assumed other people could kind of go, oh, well, here's the 3 or 4 things that, interest people the most. And wow, if we could find a past user or a client experience or a testimonial, or we could lean into why do we provide that product or service in the first place and tell a story around it, then it made more sense to people. Um, so that's one thing that's always, I'm like, oh, well, I just see it. And people are like, we don't see it that clearly. um, so I feel like in some ways that's kind of, some of my friends have said, I feel like that's kind of your superpower, is to walk in and
Okay.
5 to 10 minutes be able to go, there's the 3 things you need to be talking about, and here's the people in the room who are going to help you meet those goals the best for you, to get that story told. So that's kind of, yeah, it feels organic in some ways, because it was not an intentional thing on my part at all. It's just kind of something that has developed as I've sat in enough rooms, had enough conversations with businesses, and realized so many businesses are struggling with the same issues. The people are different. The the products and service we offer are different, but at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out how to clearly put what we do in front of others. And that's the recurring thread. And if we can do it clearly, I see businesses succeed. And if we can't do it clearly, I see businesses continue to struggle over and over and over again.
I agree with that because brand story or brand history or however you want to name it, it's super important. And I read a book about, because we're all in the same boat, so we at some point we all experienced this. And I read a book, I forgot the name, but I know it's Brand Story, but I'm sure you know it, but I forgot the author actually. Anyway, this book, when you read it, it makes you realize that obviously you do a lot of mistakes, and you're thinking about it, and kind of you don't want to read it anymore. You just want to stop reading because it gives you anxiety. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same as when I read the book, work Clockwork. I don't know if you know that. It gives me anxiety as well, because
Yeah.
it's pointing out exactly the mistakes that you're doing. But the to find the remedy to it is quite hard. So you just say, okay, whatever, just push it aside. So I mean, we all see this happening, and there's common myths in your field of expertise because of all of these things, and it seems like you or people who working agencies who working with brand brand story are not hit by this. But is there any common myth like this or something else like in the field of business or in the field of expertise where you are at the moment?
I think that there is, and I don't know that I'd call it exactly a myth, but there is a common belief that is mistaken. And that is, I don't know, 30 years ago, there was a movie called Field of Dreams. And the whole idea was this guy
Kevin
believed if
Kevin
I build
Costner,
this
right?
with Kevin Costner, yes.
Yeah, I know
If
this
I
one.
build it, they will come. And I think a lot of businesses have this. If I just build it and put it out in the world, clients are going to show up. And that is unfortunately not the case. It may work for your mom and your few close friends, but that's not usually enough business to help sustain you. And so that's, while it's not necessarily a myth, it's a recurring challenge I see is that businesses underestimate the need to speak with clarity and consistency about their products and services.
Okay, yeah, I think in that direction it sounds already very what I thought as well it is, you know. And here
Yeah.
we go as well for the because now we went a little bit into the challenges of your business or of business in general. But what is one of your challenges, the deep challenge, what you are facing um, in your business? I mean, in your type of business, or and then we come to the second part where you actually say what is the most. I mean, you already mentioned it before, but one of the real strong points why business are not declining, they're completely failing.
So I think for myself, one of the biggest challenges is that it is so easy to spend my days, and I think other businesses probably, at least a lot of those that I'm connected to have this challenge as well, that we spend so much of our time focused on building our business that the things we do well for others, we don't often do well for ourselves because we don't make ourselves a priority. And so we don't spend time building our own business. For me, what that looks like is that I am fantastic at building marketing funnels, building processes to get that message out for other people. But when it comes to my own business, I don't treat myself as if I'm my own client and do all of the same things. Like I try and do bits and pieces and highlights of it, instead of saying, "Oh, I need to just pretend I'm, one of my retainer clients and do the exact same things for myself all the time." So I know it's a challenge for me. I know it's a challenge for lots of people, like in the masterminds I'm a part of, um, who wrestle with some of those things we don't always do for ourselves. The saying is that the cobbler's kids don't have shoes, and I think that's kind of the case for a lot of businesses. Um, and so the interesting thing is that a lot of the businesses that I end up serving longer term, say 3, 6, 12 months with some sort of ongoing retainer process, the first few months are often us figuring out how do we break that cycle of them not putting time into telling their own story well, and how do we put some processes in place so that we can help them, even if it's limited time, put as much focus as possible into ways that we can get the message out, and then let the traditional marketing pieces do the work, like putting it out there multiple times and sharing it on multiple platforms and reusing content and things like that. But really helping them kind of break that cycle of, I haven't sat and done any marketing, in 6 months. I probably ought to do it. Well, let's put some things in place. And so, because I recognize it's a challenge in my own business, I see it in a lot of others, and it's something I then have tried to build responses to, even in the processes that I offer to clients.
No, definitely. And do you have any hacks or something which you could share? Because while we already talking about it, would be I love giving hacks. You know, some from time to time, there is something which you think you do like every day, and it's not not something other would be interested in. But at the end, it is interesting because we are always in our field and we don't really realize that it's important for others. So kind of a hack or kind of a tip or anything of that kind would be amazing.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge that I see businesses very firsthand when they're first thinking about what, oftentimes people come to me and say, why isn't my marketing working? Like, I'm doing these things. Why am I not seeing more benefit or more return? And it usually comes down to either a lack of traffic, like no one's seeing what they're putting out, or the initial messaging. And so from a messaging standpoint, it's so interesting that we don't always start with the product that is making us the most money. We oftentimes look at, here's all the things I could provide for people. Ooh, bright, shiny, let's talk about this one. And we don't step back and go, items 1 and 2 made us 50% of our whole business income last year. Items 3 and 4 made a combined total of, just a margin of the total business. And what I see a lot of businesses do is spending time building marketing around their products that have marginal margin, that aren't making enough to sustain the business. And so one of the first things I like to talk about is currently, what is the number 1 and 2 way you're getting money in your business? Start with that. All right, now let's talk about who is the audience that those products and services solve, and getting super granular in that. And okay, the audience, that's the audience. How are we solving the problem for them? Not what the product is, but what is the actual product, the problem we are solving for them. And as simple as that sounds, I'm amazed when I talk to people about this. And I actually have a 30-minute process where we sit and we document stuff if we're like in a workshop or something. But okay, let's talk about the exact problems. And people start writing, here's all the things that our product and services helps people the problems with. All of a sudden people go, I don't talk about most of these things. I just talk about, we have a cool product and you ought to buy it. I don't talk about, here's the problems we solve and the solution that is our product, but here's how it makes their life better. And we don't always think through, how are we going to talk about each stage of that for
So just
people?
buy and that's it.
Yeah,
What you don't
it's
want to
like,
buy,
buy the
what you
product,
don't
your
want to
life will
buy
be
by
better.
product.
Yeah, like, hey, just, and I get that, but we sometimes, it's almost like we have an infomercial mentality on the way we talk about our products. Like if we just say buy and put enough buttons, people are going to do it magically. But when we can really lean into, what does that audience need, and what is that problem, and how are we making their life better? What is the win that our product or service is going to give them to solve that problem? When we've got those areas, those 3 areas clearly articulated, it makes doing marketing much easier, because if I'm on a website, I know I can talk about the product and 1 or 2 of the problems it serves, and how it makes their life better in the masthead of the website. And in 7 seconds, someone can understand. But down the page, I could make that 2 paragraphs. I could write a blog post that dives into one pain point, one problem area, and is 750 words. Well, that's not going to work on a landing page of your website, but it does in a blog. Or I could do a video that talks about the way that your life is going to be better, the wins we're going to provide because of our product or service. So when you've clearly articulated those, it's almost like you then have buckets you can pull from in your messaging, and it's all your content. And the best part then is, because AI is getting so smart, you
Yes.
can do it AI prompts and say, hey, I'm working on a video talking about this problem that customers have. I've identified, here's the descriptions of my audience. Here's some of the pain points they feel. Here's how our website, or here's how our product rather, makes their life better. Okay, tell me, how could I give me some creative ideas on how I might articulate this differently. And all of a sudden I've got a list, and it's a list that's based on the work I've done about my own business. It's not some random Google search that had no continuity to us. It's about who we said our audience is, who we said their problems are, who we said their wins are from using our product. And all of a sudden we've got, at least something to get us past a blank page and begin to think, oh, I could do a social post on that. I could write a blog post about that. I could put that in my sales pitch the next time I go talk to a client. So there really are some cool ways, but I'm finding more and more like you have to start with the basics. And if we are so prone to jump down to just buy, that we have to be thinking about how can I make this conversational? How can I put a story around this? How could I emotionally get the person to connect with it? Rather than just throwing another big orange button that says buy now at them.
Definitely, because I can relate to this because as you know, we're helping e-commerce sellers to sell more, and ourselves, because I sell my stuff as well on several marketplaces, and when you have your product, you say like, yeah, okay, buy. Yeah, why don't you buy? It's my product. It's me. Why don't you buy? So, but as you mentioned, and we fall as well into it, and we sell actually that service to others because we help others to sell. So we know the customer avatar, we know the whole funnel, everything until we get to the customer, so they buy, and we get a good conversion rate from Amazon, for example. So we know all of this. And myself, I find myself like I told you already, and for myself, why don't people buy my product? And it's, as you mentioned, it's so near all of this, but at the end, you just forget about what you're doing actually yourself. And then you need to think and you come back to this and say, okay, I actually, I teach people this, and I do myself the same mistake, so you found yourself sometimes in the same situation because you think your product is the best. Why nobody buys? It's
right.
And there is so much, today, in today's age, it's not like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's like everyone has an agency and everyone sells products. So we have to kind of come out of this, because we agree that 90% will disappear within the next 1 or 2 years, and a new will come, and it will be always like this. We are since 10 years in the market. We have seen this coming and going, but still, it's still dangerous for everyone, and everyone needs always to take a step back and look around and listen to like yourself, Ryan. It's to professionals like yourself. And to do the right steps, it's really important, So thank you. This is amazing how we have been speaking and what you gave us today. And is there any other question I didn't ask you and you would have loved me to ask you today?
I don't know that there's any specific question I would have loved, other than just a reminder to people that it is our role and responsibility as business owners to guide the conversations that are happening around our business and products, that we have to proactively be directing that so that what people are saying about us is on track and it points people to a better long-term experience with us.
Definitely. So we always, at the end of the day, always have to learn. You know what I'm always saying? We have to, sometimes you say like, yeah, I know everything. No, we don't. I don't know everything. I cannot speak for others, but I know for myself, I know, I have to learn every time in order to help people, and I see really from your experience and what you're suggesting that I really like to listen to you. And I like to hear because I kind of like brand story and I've kind of disliked brand story. It's like a love and hate relationship. Like it's something which needs to be there. It's something which what can I say? I will need to tell you the book, the brand story book. It's a red book. Like I forgot just the author. And I will send it to you over LinkedIn, and then you can have a look at it. Really,
that'd be great.
It's a great book. So can you just give us a last message, like to the world, what about entrepreneurship or anything around that?
Yeah, I would say that when you feel the most frustrated, when you feel like people are engaging with your business but not taking action, they're showing up to your website, but they aren't doing the things you want, that most of the time is because there is a lack of clarity in the messaging as to how they are to engage with you and how you're going to make their life better. Um, and that is the moment not to walk away in frustration, but to lean in and say, how can I make sure I speak with more clarity about the products and services and making people's life better? And a lot of times that is going to necessitate someone with outside eyes walking in and doing a marketing audit, doing a website audit, looking at your content and saying, from an outsider standpoint who has no knowledge of your organization and what you're doing, here's where I see some messaging gaps that I believe are getting in the way of you closing sales.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. So always on the lookout. Never think we're this is the last message we done. Always try to improve anything that we have, everything that is ongoing. This is really great advice. Thank you so much, Ryan. If somebody or anybody from the audience wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place to just say hello and ask for your services or just have a talk?
Yeah. So the number one place is at distillyourstory.com. And there is a schedule a call option there. I've got a opt-in for a 3-part video series that's free that gives you a little bit of some of kind of my messaging theory and background that's available there. I have a Facebook group that is called the High Proof Marketing for Entrepreneurs group. You could check me out there. I drop in and do short 15-20 minute teaching kind of things on strategies and ideas that you could incorporate into your marketing. And so those are really two of the best places to find me. You could always DM me straight from that Facebook group, even if you wanted to just have a chat and kind of see where could my business use some help and some services.
Great. Thank you so much. That was a great talk. And it's like I said, it's a very, very sensitive subject and very, very important for everyone. And yeah, thank you for your time and all the advices today, Ryan.
Well, thank you so much, Omar. I appreciate the opportunity.